Hello, all you skibbies. This is the new Great Answer podcast. And yes, it is me, Great Answer. It used to be the Ropecast. We will still talk about rope, and this is, you may have noticed, I opened the way I always open with hello, all you skibbies. Skibbe is a Japanese word that I learned from one of my favorite teachers and a dear friend, Midori. And it basically means pervert. So since we are rebranding this podcast, not to just be about rope, but to be about kink, sex, and culture, we are still going to be able to keep the skebes, because hey, that's another culture, and it has to do with kink and sex. We are going to cover all kinds of fun topics, but if you have one in particular you would like me to cover, you can always get a hold of me at greatanswer@gmail.com. I was also very relieved to find out that my sponsors, who are twistedmonk.com, the maker of fine handcrafted rope. He is currently in Baltimore teaching with Midori and at an event where my serva, Naiia, is actually attending also. She's learning Midori's rope dojo techniques this weekend. Twisted Monk is going to be there, and he is just recently has finished editing, or is working on editing, several new how-to clips. For years, decades, literally over a decade, I have said, if you need to learn how to do rope, one of the best free places you can find it is at twistedmonk.com. And you can go and get their free videos. Now, of course, if you go and you look at their free videos, they're going to be about rope, and you'll want to get some rope too. He has fantastic colors of the month, but let me tell you, you better set your calendars for November, because I'm positive that whatever color of the month he has, would not be surprised if it had something to do with pumpkins or turkeys. Whatever it is, it sells out really, really fast. So you want to make sure that you are careful and get it first. The other sponsor that I'm really happy to have is Karma Rope. Now, karmarope.com is a fantastic place, because they are taking some 21st century economic models and applying it to kink and bondage and things like that. I'm hoping that some of you out there may be listening to the Great Answer podcast and aren't into rope. And you're like, hey, well, I hear the rope stuff cool, but I don't do rope because it takes too long, or I don't do rope because it's too expensive. Well, you don't have any excuses anymore. It doesn't actually take too long. If you go to twistedmonk.com, you'll find the instructional things on how to do it fast, and you will also be able to get the rope, the really nice organic hemp or jute, from karmarope.com at whatever price you can afford. So if you can only afford $2 a hank, that's what you do. They take it off the spool, they throw it in a plastic bag, they ship it to you. And they also support this podcast, and both twistedmonk.com and karmarope.com. Both of them also support the Ropecraft People of Color Safe Space, and that is being run by Do Not Go Gently in Ropecraft, New Orleans, and we really appreciate their support in getting her out there and housed and things like that, so that she can make it a better place for everyone, because we're all about decolonizing. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of additional patrons that came to patreon.com/ropecast, although now it's patreon.com/greatanswer. And what they did was they pledged $1 to $5. One person way out there in Sweden. Thank you, dear. It is really nice to have your support. And all of the people that do that got access to my sketch notes. And the most recent sketch notes are the ones that I did from Wooden Tiger and I'm going to mispronounce her name, Adirilona. Anyway, their class on solving problems, specifically for rope, but it was at a kink event called FAPCON3 in Calgary, and I really, really appreciate that. I got to get out there and also have some wonderful quality time with Dr. Eves. So thank you, and I miss everyone in Calgary, but especially Dr. Eves. So, what are we going to talk about if we're not just going to talk about rope? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and get to hear a little bit about leather from FAPCON.
No, what do you want to talk about? I mean, like, whatever.
Yeah, we're going to talk about whatever because, this is the new Great Answer podcast. Actually, you know what should I talk about? I've been talking about rope since 2005, so 12 years. I've been talking about trying to focus things on rope, but lately things have been going kind of a little bit askew. I've been talking about power exchange. I've been talking about consent. I've been talking about toxic masculinity. I've been talking about all kinds of things like that, and I realized that, as I'm always going to be a rope guy. Love rope. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, I'm talking with Maestro Stefanos. What are the rest of the appellations?
Oh, did you want the big one?
Yeah, the big one.
Okay, so the joking full title is The Majestic Maharaja Maestro Stefanos the Magnificent.
Exactly.
And my partner, then my partner is Mistress Haunted Pants.
Yeah.
Nobody stopped the total.
Nice. And he does, among other things, teaches remedial ropes.
Yes.
And his website, isn't it remedialropes.com? He and Shay have both created a really great postcard that has things for tops and things for bottoms that I've carried around to different events. So this does have stuff to do with rope, except it is not solely ropes. And we also have another guest here, and I'll let you introduce yourself because I'm not sure how you want to be appellated on a podcast.
I'm Scott, or sometimes known as Daddy Scott, if the mood so hits.
And we are here at FAPCON, the third FAPCON, in Calgary, Alberta, and it is beautiful weather here for Canada, as in we have a visibility of about 10 feet. And we're sitting, so of course we are sitting here in the hotel bar imbibing things, and I'm not sure what we should talk about. I mean, we are three people who enjoy leather, who enjoy various forms of kink, and I've been doing a rope podcast for 12 years, and this is the first podcast that I do not have to make it rope. So what should we talk about?
Well, okay, I'm only going to talk about rope for a second, just to help. Because I love you so much to answer.
Try and get away.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because you said remedial ropes in the postcards. Mm-hmm. So I would like to tell the whole world something really important.
Please.
On our website, you can actually find the PDF file for those postcards. And we'll be happy to give it to you if you're willing to print them up and pass them out in your community if you think they're that good about safety and the information. So that is one of the purposes of remedialropes.com. Now, as far as ropes go, I'm pretty much done with that. I mean, I can tell you about my remedial ropes class if that matters, if that's something we want to talk about.
We'll come back to that later on when we talk about, future rope crafts and things like that.
Okay, because I'm like, I mean, it's not really rope. I mean, all the time for me, rope is a means to an ends for me, so it's more the end I'm looking for, which is ultimately sex, fire, blood, knives, and general dirtiness.
And you know what? I was thinking about that, and we just sex, blood, knives, general dirtiness.
I can get behind that.
Right.
Or in front of that, depending.
And I'm going to note that, you are wearing a leather harness kind of thing, and you are wearing a leather vest.
Tonic anywhere.
And oh no, we have a drink.
Oh, okay, all right, let's let the quick question.
So this has gotten much shorter than I thought it was going to be, but I'm going to ask a quick question because I noticed both of you are wearing leather. And as I'm teaching a class on leather history and culture, I'm going to use you as ethnographic research and say, in a brief statement, what does leather mean to you? Starting with Maestro Stefanos.
Absolutely. So leather's a lot of different purposes for me. The two come to mind really fast. I ride a motorcycle. Okay? So I wear leather as protection. Now, when I started in kink, I wore leather as a costume to give me more power to be kinky. It made me feel like I was in a space to be kinky.
That's kind of another form of protection, really.
That's exactly where I was going.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, jump ahead. I'll edit that out. I'll fix that in post.
Please don't fix that in post, because that's exactly the purpose of it.
I actually never fix things in post. I just say that. So.
Okay, good. It's good, because it becomes a form of power then. It has a connection to my whole entire persona then, because I wear leather when I ride, I wear leather when I do kink, and the harness itself is actually can be suspenders, and it forces me to do something that this harness was designed to do, which is to sit up straight and pull my shoulders back. Gotcha. Which incidentally we found out most recently through science that makes you feel more powerful when you stand up straight. Right. So its whole entire effort was strangely connected to that. And then one more piece of history about myself is almost every piece of the leather that I have was a gift up until I started buying my motorcycle gear, following my first motorcycle jacket that was given to me as a gift. So it's very strange. So it becomes a piece of power and connection to people.
And we should add, you are also a title holder. You are a title holder of?
Oh, good Lord. Yes, that's right. I'm Mr. SF Citadel 2010. I am, what is that international? Oh, yes, the International Power Exchange title. I have that too. And yeah, that was a fun time. I absolutely loved that. So, thank you.
Just when we did it. Okay. And your leather, sir?
For me, leather is very much helps me identify myself and kind of get me in that proper headspace to do the things that we do. I try to do all my kink with intention and purpose, and I find that wearing leather helps kind of focus that intention and focus that purpose. The vest that I have on is actually the very first piece of leather I earned when I was a collared boy, and it's been with me this whole time.
Nice.
And yeah.
And also, it's sexy because it's been worn. It has all the wrinkles in it from all the places that you have when you wear leather on your shoulders. It has all the wrinkles in it from all the places that someone touched him too much, or he touched him too much himself. It's just pure power.
So, well, thank you both. And unfortunately, I have to go, but we will be talking more about leather later on.
I'll come back to you.
Now, unfortunately, we did not have a chance to come back to this subject. I definitely plan on having both of them back on at different points. Daddy Scott, especially because what I did not realize at the time, and I should have, is that he was a Seattle Leather Daddy 2005. He's another title holder. And he had a lot to say about leather later on in the conference, and I gave my talk about leather history, and he came up and said that he had really enjoyed it and that it was good, which is always reassuring when, you know, you're a cis het presenting white male talking about something as, you know, predominantly, well, at least in current form, gay as leather culture. It's always nerve-wracking that I'm going to get something wrong. Now, admittedly, I'm giving a history report, so it's not that difficult. But yeah, it's always scary. And he said I did a good job, so therefore it must be good, right? Because everybody knows that the gay leather world is a contingent of monolithic agreement among everybody. That's sarcasm, by the way, just so you know. So I did want to talk a little more about leather, and I actually even have a listener question come in that I will go to the easy stuff first and then come back to the question, because the question's kind of hard. But I asked for difficult questions, so that's okay. Instead, I want to talk about a little bit from a class that I do, and the class is called Creative Protocols for DS Relationships. And it's kind of to talk about why people have these silly little protocols and things like that. Now, protocol is a way of doing something. It's a method of doing something. And it's usually a way to do something that is kind of convoluted, not as simple as normal. You know, I can get my own coffee. I can take off my own boots. I can do all kinds of things by myself, but I have my serva do them for me. Or, you know, she can do things herself. She can take on and off her collar by herself. She can pick out her clothes like a grown-ass woman that she is. But she likes to have me do those things for her. So what is it that does that? Why do people have these kinds of things? Now, one way that I usually talk about is that I say there are 4 things that are used for protocols. And the whole purpose of any protocol between 2 people is to reinforce the relationship. 2 people, 3 people, 5 people, even 1 person. It's to maybe sort of reinforce your relationship with yourself, your self-identity. There is no one true way. It's not like you can sit here and say, well, I'm going to go through these particular moves in this particular position, and that's going to have exactly the same effect. No, instead, what you need to do is you need to take a look at how the things that you're looking at are reinforcing their relationship. Now, to start with, you just watch or imagine or fantasize. Think about what would it look to you. Here, we'll give it a chest, okay? Whether you're a top or a bottom, I'm going to say one word, and I want you to picture in your head what that looks like, okay? In terms of leather DS power exchange. The word is kneeling. Now, If you, depending on who you are, what you're feeling, you may have pictured yourself kneeling, or you may have pictured someone else kneeling. There may be clothes involved. There may not be clothes involved. There may be a bowed head. There may be an upraised head. Whatever it is, there was an image in your head, and that image spoke to you. And because I did mention it's in relationship to a power exchange relationship. So maybe what it said to you was, this is what I never want to do. Or maybe it said, this is what I really want someone to do for me. One of the ways you can tell whether or not a protocol is good for you is to first see what appeals to you. When I said kneeling, some of you may have gotten a little flutter in your stomach of, ooh, yeah. I mean, I did. I have a great image of kneeling in my head, a few images of kneeling. Maybe I should go and take a break. No, podcast. So what we're doing here is we are taking and trying to notice things. And you could go ahead and you can go and read the marketplace books, or you can, watch Secretary or something like that. Yes, you can do all those things. But here's the thing. Look for places and things that aren't necessarily in the open. Okay, like I find a lot of interesting leather protocols in Downton Abbey. The phrase, that will be all, was a beautiful phrase that I really needed. You find it in the way that they have in various military shows, command structures, all kinds of things like that. Because one of the four things that any protocol should reinforce or should help out with. Now, I should say, when I say four things, it can be any one of these four things that will work for a protocol. But if it's none of these four things, if you're doing something and none of these four things are happening, then why are you doing the protocol? Find something else. So the four things. The first thing is hierarchy. Protocols reinforce hierarchy. Now, this can take a lot of different shapes. It could be physical position, kneeling to standing, sitting to standing, prone to standing, prone to kneeling. One of the protocols that Naiia and I have is that every night before we go to bed, she kneels next to the bed, and we have a shared moment of, sometimes it's just come to bed, serva. Sometimes it is, how was your day? How are things going? It's a moment of connection. Okay, and that is one thing. It reinforces the hierarchy between the two of us, the one that we have chosen. It can also be a ornamental posture, maybe a special way of serving whiskey or something like that. To some extent, it can also be a verbal call and response when she calls me Domine, because our titles are Dominus and Serva. When I call her Serva, sometimes it's affectionate things. And you heard Maestro Stefanos talking about his particular way that he does it. So that one is one thing that can help out. The second thing that it should somehow reinforce is the connection between the two of you. Okay, now this can be verbal. It just could be the matter of the little tingle you get when you call someone master, or you call someone leather slut, or whatever it may be, or when you just have someone say thank you. That's the thing, is that a lot of focus on how to give service in the leather community, not so much on how to receive it well, and that is one thing we need to do more. Okay, various rituals can also help reinforce the connection. Naiia and I today, she took off on an airplane, and we had a long discussion, well, semi-long, about how the protocol for her removing her collar as she went through security should be. Did we want me to take it off before she left, so there's that symbolic, or did we want her to take it off when she was there? Normally, she doesn't take off her own collar. And we discussed it, and we decided that the best way to maintain the connection, which is what that talisman of the collar symbolizes, would be for her to leave it on for as long as possible and put it on as quickly as possible afterwards. So I did not take it off as I, let her out at the airport. Instead, she kept it on, and she took it off before she went to security. That way she could feel a little closer to me, and vice versa. She also texted me when she got back and said, "Love you, Domine." Now, that little verbal thing in my phone is a reinforcement of the connection between the two of us. There's a leatherman from, I believe, Kansas called Whipmaster Bob. And in a class once, he said to his bottom that he didn't want her. He did not want her to be constantly sitting there doing things and, or waiting on him, constantly waiting around to see what him. As he put it, go have a life so that I can interrupt it. I thought that was a great phrase. Have a life so I can interrupt it. Because that very interruption, the ability to interrupt something, is part of the connection that reinforces. Okay. Now, the third thing that a protocol, leather or DS or otherwise, should do is it should make things hot. Okay, and I usually spell this HAWT. It should just be sexy. Okay. Now, the thing is that especially in a power exchange relationship or leather relationship, you want to pay attention to what actually feels sexy versus what you think you should find sexy. Okay, if you don't like wearing boots, don't wear boots. You don't have to wear boots. You can wear. There's an international Ms. Leather. I cannot remember her name, but she scandalized the competition because she had purple leathers. Purple leathers, but those are the leathers that she liked. That was what she liked. She didn't like the black one, so she wore the other one. Now, part of the way you can kind of reinforce the hierarchy and the connection and the hot comes when a person in the right side of the slash, as they say, or the submissive person says, what would you like me to wear? And what would you wish me to wear? The most terrifying words, I think, that you can say to that as a dominant to that question is, wear something I will like. Oh my God, what are you going to do? This is a test of how well the bottom knows the top. It's a possible, first of all, what it really is it is a game. It's a chance for people to know each other better. As a top, you know what the person thinks you think is hot. If that's not right, maybe you need to do some more communicating. And the other thing is that there is, I believe, a responsibility for the top to pay attention to what their bottom or what the other partner or partners also find hot. It can be in simple ways. I, for example, have a subscription to MeUndies, and I sometimes get special new undies. I'm actually fondling the October selection today, and I happen to know that both of my primary partners and various other people happen to really like the way that MeUndies hugs my butt and frames my package. And so that little thing, that kind of style, goes a long way towards reinforcing the hot. And honestly, putting on those things is a protocol that I do. So the fourth thing that any kind of a protocol should reinforce is your quality of life. And I'm not just talking about simple service things. Yes, my quality of life is improved when my serva has coffee ready for me. Yes, I will. That's a simple one. That's an easy one. But my quality of life is also improved when I look at my serva, who is an incredible woman. She's the head of the Madison Women of Leather. She has done a lot of work in the community. She is, right now off learning things at Midori's Rope Dojo. And I look at that and I think, you know what? That woman has chosen to serve me, has chosen to give herself to me. I need to be someone who is worthy of that. Okay, so what do I do to do that? I have my self-improvement when it comes to being a Friday when I'm tired and don't want to work anymore. Instead, I pull out my podcast because my podcast needs to get out there. So that's the kind of thing that makes a difference. Now, a lot of times a protocol will not seem to be working. Okay, maybe you're doing something and it doesn't feel like it's sexy anymore. Before you throw away that protocol, you want to ask yourself, is it doing something else? Sometimes these protocols are sort of the framework that helps hold you together through the rough times. Okay, so if it is, we have had times when Naiia and I have been really angry. We had a fight and so mad, and she comes over and she hands me my coffee and says, "Here, sir, here's your coffee." And I say, "Thank you, serva, for giving me my coffee." And it's, there's no hot in there at all. Hell, there's barely even a connection except like lightning bolts flashing from our eyes. But it reinforces the hierarchy. It does reinforce our relationship. Now, if you're doing something and it doesn't do any of those things, it doesn't make anything make any sense, then you stop and you say, okay, you know what? Maybe this is not feeding me. Is this feeding you? Is there some way we can change this so that it fits in these things? And this is entirely between you and the other people in the relationship. It's not any kind of outside thing. If somebody comes up to you and says, like someone once said to me, "Oh my God, I can't believe you let her touch the ropes as you tied her up." It's like, fuck you. I'm not tying you up. And at the time, I wanted to have her touch the ropes. That's fine. It's not a contest. There's no leatherer than thou kind of thing. So those are the 4 things that I believe that any protocol should reinforce in some way, shape, or form. Hierarchy, connection, the hot, and quality of life. And now for the question. Da-da-da. The question of the day, which comes from Kansas City, Missouri, is, when you found leather to stay, how did you know that you were home? And that's an interesting question because, I do think of leather as being a home, but I'm trying to think of when exactly that was, when exactly that started. And that's kind of a hard one. I can tell you when I first got into leather, when I realized I was leather, because I would hang around leather people all the time. Melina Williams is a great friend of mine. I attended leather conferences and all kinds of things like that, but I was kind of the token rope guy. I wasn't into leather. And more than that, I thought of leather as being kind of pretentious and silly. So why did I change? Well, I changed because in a class where I was demonstrating someone being hogtied on the floor, a woman being Rita Seagrave, she was hogtied there naked on the floor, and I said, "And see, sometimes they even enjoy it. Are you enjoying yourself, Rita?" And Rita looked up at me and said, "I would enjoy it more if you were standing 2 inches closer." And I thought, that's kind of weird. So I moved 2 inches closer, and she stretched out her delicate neck and kissed my boot. And I had this little flutter inside my tummy, the kind of thing that happens when you say, walk in a room and you see somebody you find interesting, or you first see that kink that makes you go, wow. And I said, this requires some exploration. When I think I knew I was home, I think it happened the first time that I really enjoyed a bootblacking scene. And my first bootblacking scene was at an event in the Midwest, and actually Naiia was my bootblacking platform. And the bootblack, who I don't know, I don't have her permission to name her, so I won't say it here. She blacked my boots and, sort of roughed up Naiia. And I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, I've polished hundreds of boots and shoes and things like that in my life, and I never realized it could be so fucking hot. But I was sitting there and I could see Naia's look of peaceful surrender as my boots were resting on her, and I could feel the care and the focus on the leather, and I just felt in my element. And I think that was when I first realized that leather was a place for me to feel at home. Now, like any home, sometimes it's messy, sometimes it needs repair, sometimes you can't wait to get out of it because you need a vacation. But I do always come back to it, and I appreciate the question. It does feel like home. It feels like a family. So that's my leather idea. So that was the first Great Answer podcast. It's about leather and protocols. If you liked it, then let me know. greatanswer@gmail.com. I'm also Great Answer on Twitter. I'm Great Answer on FetLife. I'm even Great Answer on Facebook. But you can also tell me you didn't like it, or you think I should talk about something else. I like the questions. I'd like to have that kind of thing. I'm hoping to have many other guests on here. I'm hoping to get Reed Mihalko on here. I would love to have the Sexpert Tayomi on here. if you're interested in leather things and protocols, you should look up Sinclair Sexsmith, who is a fantastic educator who has an entire online course, both for dominants and for submissives, and has really, really great stuff. Anyway, I also like to once again thank karmarope.com for pay what you can rope, and twistedmonk.com, maker of fantastic custom dyed rope and gear slingers and monk sacks and all kinds of things like that. Thank them both for supporting this podcast. And if you happen to go to patreon.com/great answer and you sign up as a patron at $5 or more, I will make accessible to you a folder with pictures, very explicit pictures, from the last rope scene, the rope and leather scene that Naiia and I did, where she was blacking my chaps and things like that. So if you are interested in seeing what leather scene looks like, that will be a way you can do that. And you'll also get access to all of my sketch notes and some extra podcast content and things like that as well. So anyway, I'm going to stop blathering now and say so long. I don't have a good closing catchphrase anymore. I don't know. That's some good kink. That doesn't, now it seems like it'd be tawdry. We will work on the catchphrase. So, catchphrase to be inserted later. This is Great Answer, coming to you from still the rope bondage capital of the world, Madison, Wisconsin. I'll talk to you again next week. All right. I don't know about you, but I can't believe the sound was actually that clear. But we are we going to see him again at Crossroads event? Oh, it's too bad. So yeah, we're going to be going to Crossroads event, which is at turtlehillevents.org. Really a good idea to go to that. I'd also like to take a moment and pimp another event.
This is Dan,
Dawn,
and Karen.
and we are the co-producers of the annual polyamory event, Beyond the Love.
Beyond the Love is a low-cost 3-day event held on November 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2016 in a private space in a beautiful hotel in Columbus, Ohio.
You will find a variety of classes and workshops led by people living in polyamorous relationships from around the country.
As well as fun and interactive extras like poly mixers, game night, and an 80s dance and more.
There will be a wealth of opportunity to learn tools, techniques, and communication skills to enhance our poly relationships.
We will provide a safe environment for meeting with other like-minded people in a supportive and inclusive community.
We welcome anyone living a poly lifestyle or considering doing so.
We're passionate about recognizing poly as a relationship choice and sharing common experiences on our many different paths.
Find out more at beyondthelove.org.
We
Hope to see you there.
Now, you may be wondering if you'll see me there, and I'll be honest with you, probably not. Not because I don't support them or I don't think it's a great event. I am, in fact, polyamorous, as my darling Naiia and the blonde will tell you. But that is the week after Ropecraft New Orleans. And we will be in full, oh my God, we did it mode. But I don't think you should not be able to go there. And in order to make it easier for you to go to both events, guess what? That's right. Even though we are about to do, in about a week and a half, maybe less than that, a price bump where the cost of going to Ropecraft will go up to $199, which is still a good deal. 3 nights of parties, classes, 2 full dungeons, rope and space with Murphy Blue, access to the gala dinner with lots of performances. That's a good deal, even at $199.99, which is what it's going to go up to on September 17th. Right now, it's $179.99, so you could still get your tickets, now and get a little money. But guess what? Because you, my dear friend, yes, I'm talking to you, are listening to this Ropecast. All you have to do is go in to ropecraftnola.bpt.me and enter in the code ROPECAST. If you do that, you will get access to a special Ropecast price of $149.99 for the entire event.
Woo!
So, please do not share this with anyone that you don't think is a Ropecast listener. Maybe they could be a potential Ropecast listener, but this is just for you. What I'm saying is don't post it to the internet. This is just for you. And I hope that it means that you'll have an extra $50 or so to go to Beyond the Love too. Or you could go take it and get some rope from karmarope.com, one of my sponsors, or check out what the color of the month is from Twisted Monk. Hey, actually, that's enough money to buy not only a length of rope, but also to get yourself one of the new gear slingers from Twisted Monk, which are totally fucking awesome. So, twistedmonk.com, one of my sponsors. Yes, Naiia, you wanted to tell me something? Nope, she's not.
No.
She's just being a
You
good
could buy me a
serva.
gear slinger.
You could buy Naiia a gear slinger if you'd like. Send that to graydancer@gmail.com if you can figure out how to send something solid through email. Anyway, so that hits us the hour mark, so I'm going to sign off. This is Great Answer, again, from my undisclosed location where we are making plans for our next assault on Ramblewood. Signing off. That's some good rope.